Hey everyone, John here! And the Half-Life 2 20th anniversary celebrations have done terrible, irreversible things to me. It's gotten me excited about Half-Life again. The Half-Life 2 updates are just remarkable. There was a 2-hour-long documentary, and I watched the whole thing. It's full of super interesting stuff about the development of Half-Life 2, but also sneak peeks at Episode 3, which I never thought we would see. But the worst thing all of this did was it made me want to play Half-Life Alyx, which I've been holding out nearly 5 years now because I don't have a VR headset. Well, now I do. This is the MetaQuest 3S, and it was on sale for around £250, which is a far easier entry point than what headsets used to be, around the £1,000 mark. And so, fellas, I'm in my VR era, and I've played and finished Half-Life Alyx. Let's go, baby. I can see you. I'm not blind. Half-Life Alyx is about to turn 5 years old, and back when it released, it wasn't exactly easy to play. You needed a capable PC, £50 for the game, and then £919 on the Valve Index. Alright, you could use other headsets, but in almost every scenario, this was a £1,000 and above game. And that is a big gamble, as at least then, not many people knew if they could even tolerate VR, let alone play an entire game in it. I've been a big Half-Life fan most of my life, and this last half-decade, Half-Life Alyx has always been on my mind. I thought maybe this will be the game that makes me pick up a PlayStation VR 2, but then they used Half-Life Alyx to advertise that PSVR 2 can work on PC, so clearly that game is never coming to PS5. I did pick up a PSVR 1 for £30 last year. Yeah, £30, not a bad deal, right? That let me play stuff like Astrobot Rescue Mission and Tetris Effect and the very nausea-inducing Wipeout Omega Collection. But none of those are Half-Life. Recently, however, the MetaQuest 3S released, and deals have brought this thing as low as £250, and there are other Quest games I'm interested in, like Batman Arkham Shadows and Resident Evil 4 VR. And so, I finally have a modern PC-compatible headset, so I can play those and hook it up to my PC to play Half-Life Alyx. This has been a long time coming. I was there day one for Episode 2 17 years ago. My group of friends in school were all huge Valve heads, and the cliffhanger and the wait for Episode 3 felt excruciating. In the Half-Life 2 20th anniversary documentary, Valve actually spoke about and physically showed footage of Episode 3, which had a Silver Surfer-style ice gun. Look how cool this is. You can make a barricade wall, or just literally surf on it. They explained that the game had been in development for 6 months before staff was shifted onto Left 4 Dead, but by the time they got back, most of the team had a taste for multiplayer games. And with Episode 3 not pushing the industry forward like Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2, they simply didn't finish it. A Half-Life 2 follow-up has been attempted from time to time, but nothing ever stuck. And while Alyx is a prequel, it embodies everything Half-Life stands for with innovation. Hopefully people like me are starting to understand this now that VR is somewhat cheaper and more accessible. What they've achieved here is another realm in innovation. Half-Life 1 was an incredible ongoing adventure with a scope and seamless narrative we hadn't seen before. Half-Life 2 built on that with groundbreaking physics that were a crucial part of the core gameplay loop, and Alyx takes all of that but lets you physically reach out and interact with the world. Right from the start, what strikes me most is the scale. You never really got the impression from Half-Life 2 that headcrabs are big. They're not little rabbit-sized jumpy guys. You can actually feel like they could entrap your head with their scale. Seeing how tall striders are, or even being face-to-face with another human, these things just feel more real. Being built in Source 2, Alyx is a stunningly detailed game, which is good because any prop you see lying around can be picked up and rotated and brought straight to your face. Look at the detail in this mug. Half-Life Alyx is a huge jump in technology from Half-Life 2, but it still artistically looks like it. It's like the developers didn't take a 17-year break, and that extends to everything. The visuals, the pacing, the general gameplay, especially the audio design. I have some experience in VR, but very little with controllers that don't look like wands. and I was absolutely quite clumsy at first playing with these. Just opening a door was a struggle, but as I went on, everything started to feel natural. Take that door! Freaking wood! Look at how bad I was at lifting toilet seats at the start. Now, I'm the master. It doesn't take long for Alyx to get the gravity gloves, a prototype version of the gravity gun, and unlike that, it's not a weapon, but it still enables so much. Despite being more realistic, which inherently comes with VR, the gloves let Half-Life Alyx be unjarringly gamey. You don't need to physically crouch and reach for every object that comes your way, instead just point at it and flick it to you. Ammo. Live grenades. Crates. Yeah, no crowbar needed, just smash those things on the ground. It's so intuitive. There's basically never any clumsy targeting. I just looked at what I wanted, even if it was surrounded by other things, and just flung it my way. I started playing Alyx sitting down, and it made me feel quite sick playing it that way. But standing up and physically rotating, barely touching that right stick at all, felt great. Although you'll need a big USB cable for that, especially if you're playing wired up like I did. And while you see a HUD in the footage you're watching now, in the headset, there's none of that. This is a completely immersive world. If you want to check your health, then look at your left hand. There's a monitor on there showing all the stats. And if you want to see how much ammo is left, then check your gun. It tells you what's in the clip. Every single aspect of Half-Life Alyx is wildly good. There are VR-less mods out there, which I'm sure are well made, and it's great for those who physically can't do VR, but for those who can, I don't think you quite understand what you'd be missing. There's nothing comparable to physically hiding behind cover, leaning out, putting the controller to your face, and aiming down the iron sights. The act of reloading is so intuitive as well. Reaching out over your shoulder and grabbing pulls out reserved ammo for whatever gun you're using. And with the shotgun, for example, you pop it open, put in the shells, close it, and pump. That's quite a few steps. But in the heat of combat, you end up doing it without even thinking. In some cases, I was reloading faster than Half-Life 2 would. It's so much more flexible than any flat-screen game, and you're probably going to use the gloves a lot in hot moments too, as ammo is pretty scarce to come across. Whipping a clip towards you from the ground and shoving it into your gun to empty onto a combined soldier, you don't get these experiences anywhere else. And damn, these TVs have SCART inputs. That's how you know City 17 is in Europe. Because ammo is so limited, you're always searching everywhere you can. Car boots, kitchen cupboards, around corners. It's such a joy to explore in this game, and you often find these little currency pieces that can be used to upgrade your weapons too, like putting on different attachments to them. So you're always engaged and looking for things. Something as basic as a hallway can get your attention because there may be something useful in there. This is all to say that the simple act of moving in Half-Life Alyx is revolutionary. They could have made a basic string of encounters with these mechanics and it would still be amazing. But Alyx has the quality that matches, and in some areas exceeds, Half-Life 2. Fairly early on, you get a torch that attaches to your left hand, and so there are these dark and dingy areas that are physically lit by you. With headcrab zombies, you want to point at them with one hand so you can see them, and then use the other hand to aim and shoot. But when it comes to reloading, you've got to sacrifice sight to actually reload. And then if you drop a clip, there's this big moment of dread, like do you look down to find the clip, do you light the zombie to see where they are, do you have room to move? It is fantastic. There's very familiar Half-Life moments, like this room filled with explosives, and you've got to get up very close and personal with the detonators. From there you can do a hacking puzzle, but you've got to be very careful to follow the cues and not smack the laser and blow the whole place up. Alyx has a few hacking abilities, with most puzzles repeating throughout the course of the game and escalating, and I really did not get on with this one. It always felt good when I finally clear it, but I'm not a clever man. One that comes up a few times is an electrical circuit puzzle, where you go around and you flip parts of the circuit to create a perfect loop, and this is a small pillar of one of the best moments in the game. Big spoiler alert here. In fact, spoilers for the rest of the video now. If you've got no intention of playing the game or you've already played it, then cool, stick around. But if not, vamoose. You gone? Cool. Jeff. There's a chapter in Half-Life Alyx where you're trapped in a pretty isolated area with a blind zombie named Jeff. He's not the scariest stalker-like enemy ever, but he's perhaps the most chilling. Jeff can't see you, and Jeff won't track you as long as you're being quiet. But there's some core puzzles like turning this valve here, which you'll absolutely hear in a moment. There's one fantastic area with 3 power cells lurking in a big escape-type room, and so you're throwing bottles across the room to get Jeff to go way over there so you can quietly try and get them from these small little puzzles. Even lobbing the power cells back up the ladder makes noise, so you've got to be really careful in this area. There's this valve here that can't just connect regularly, so you've got to try and operation it up the pole, and Jeff can hear that if you're being too loud. And maybe the coolest part of Jeff VR-wise is the poison cloud that floats around him. It makes Alyx cough, so if you're too close he'll hear you and get you, so you've got to physically put your hand over your mouth so you don't cough. Anyway, all these elements make Jeff very cool, but the best part is this valve right here. No matter how far you drive Jeff away, you do not have enough time to open the door with the valve. He will reach you, he will kill you. Eventually it clicked that we can lock Jeff in the freezer. Use one hand to pull the freezer door closed, use the other hand to lock the door. Jeff cannot escape. You then get this really tense scene with Jeff continuously bashing on the door. You feel like he's going to bash out at any moment, and so you turn the valve as fast as you can. That moment keeps building. The valve is done, but still, bash, bash, bash. You make your way forward and you find a lift, still thinking he's going to break free any second, and then the power cuts out. Surely he breaks free now. But still, no. You trace the power line, expecting any moment to be doing this under the pressure from Jeff, until it eventually occurs to you that the power line goes into the fridge. The only way to finish this circuit is to unlock it yourself, releasing him. It's so good. And then when you finally do that and get the lights back on, Jeff follows you to the lift, and he just stands in there. You need to quietly approach with your hand out and physically press the button without him getting you. This is peak Valve, simply one of the best things I've experienced in a game. Jeff is the highlight of Half-Life Alyx. But even with this being the highlight, Alyx never slows its ideas down. There's always new enemy types, new puzzles, recontextualized abilities. You finally escape Jeff, and it's straight onto a museum filled with antlions. And now you can fully target their limbs and take them out in just a few shots if you're careful, but that's way harder under pressure from a big swarm of antlions. There's a lot of reintroducing iconic parts of Half-Life 2, and even though this game takes place before it, there's even more building upon it. Alyx's story is pretty simple really. There's a lot of great writing, but it really just comes down to making your way through the city to a Combine ship. You can see this journey slowly happening on the load screens. There's beats along the way, like saving Eli from the Combine, but nothing too grand really happens. It's mostly a game of moments rather than a gripping, overarching narrative. That is, until the end. And major spoilers here, okay? Alyx boards the ship and enters an amazingly strange realm completely weaponless. Eventually, using the gravity gloves, you can pick up balls of energy and throw them at Combine, very similar to the supergravity gun from Half-Life 2. All of this is to rescue what she assumes is Gordon Freeman, but is instead the G-Man. And not prequel G-Man either, but one from after the events of Episode 2, where he's already interfered with Alyx. He offers Alyx anything she wants.
I want the Combine off Earth.
That would be a considerably large nudge.
And when that's not possible, he offers her something she doesn't know she wants yet, to save Eli. You kill the Combine advisor and change the future. But why? Well, Gordon's been a disappointment to the G-Man, and he wants a new hire, taking Alyx into his employment instead. In a post-credits scene, we're back at the events of Episode 2 in Gordon Freeman's eyes, and Eli is completely alive.
When I get my hands on him, I'm gonna kill him. Get this out. Right now. Come on, boy. We got work to do.
Half-Life 3 confirmed. Alyx may not have the most bombastic story, but is still an incredibly engaging one that pushes the story forward in a drastic way. This 5-year wait for me to play Half-Life Alyx was unquestionably worth it. It's never really happened that a major studio can put resources into a VR game of this scale. It's almost always a spin-off or a radically reduced scope, but Alyx is neither of those things. This is a full-on Half-Life game from this decade, the 2020s. Nothing was compromised to reach this vision, and I think that's something that only Valve could really do. The path forward for something as big as Half-Life 3 is probably a traditional flat-screen game, but after Alyx, the idea of the series going back is kinda hard. They really need to show an unparalleled level of innovation, and that's a tall order for a game we spent the last 17 years waiting for. But we know it's coming, and with Half-Life Alyx being nearly 5 years old, it might even be almost done. I simply adored this game. There's not a single part I didn't like, and so if anyone gets a headset for Christmas, ignore everything else you can do with it. Make a beeline for Half-Life Alyx and experience one of the best things this industry has ever done. Valve have not lost their magic. I have wanted to do this past half-decade, just bite the bullet and get a VR headset, but I couldn't do it for £1,000. I was tempted when headsets were around the 300, 400 mark, and I guess 250 was the point where I said, we're too far in now, just do it. And I'm glad I have. I've played Half-Life Alyx, and it's kind of a life-changing game. There's so many cool things it does, but it just pulls the industry and what it's capable of forward, while still managing to be a high-quality Half-Life game. And it's just mad that we've had a new Half-Life these last 5 years. It still feels like we've been, in that thirsty clutch of post-Episode 2 trauma for nearly 20 years. But we've had a new Half-Life. It exists. You can play it. I've played it. A bunch of you have probably played it. Half-Life is an ongoing thing still in this day and age, and that's wild to think of. And it's even wilder to think that Episode 3 or Half-Life 3 could be realized any moment now. The gap between announcement and release for Alyx was like a few months, and we're approaching that point where a sequel to it, or a sequel to Episode 2 at least, could be finished. That's crazy. Crazy! It could even be at the Game Awards. I don't think it will be, but it could be. Anyway, thank you for watching all the way through, and let me know what you think about Half-Life Alyx down below, and I will catch you next time. Bye everyone! Mwah!